Coming up on Twice the Terror.
I mean, a lot of people with IBS can relate to this. It's...
Sometimes it just feels like your head is leaving your body in that situation.
You just lose contact with your limbs and you're like, all I am is just a brain with revolting insides.
Twice the Terror.
Welcome to Twice the Terror. I'm Ryan.
I'm Kat.
And we are your hosts. If you're unfamiliar with the show, the way that it works is that each week Kat and I bring in a topic, and we bring in something to discuss from each of us on said topic. And today we've got a fun one. What are we talking about, Kat?
So we're going to talk about ghosts from other countries.
Yeah, so urban legends or, just kind of...
Folklore.
Yeah, absolutely. Just something that interests us. We just chose one. I think we chose two different countries. I think that was the one thing we discussed at the beginning, was making sure we didn't pick the same country.
Yeah, we didn't choose the same country. Which is funny because we did almost still choose the same story.
Did we?
Because I said,
you
have to make sure that neither of us pick Ireland, because I had a feeling both of us were going to do that. And then I was like, I'm going to do this. And you were like, yeah, I was also going to do that.
That's true. That's a fair point. I kind of forgot about that. I found one that I have heard of before, but hadn't thought of in a while. And when I was doing some research, I found one, and I was like, yes, that's the one I want to do. So I am excited.
Awesome. Yeah, you go. I think you should go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my story comes from Japan. And for anybody out there who speaks Japanese or, anything like that, apologies ahead of time for pronunciations. I am going to try my hardest. I've studied Japanese a little bit, but I'm pretty rusty and not particularly well-versed in the language, so I'm going to try my absolute hardest. But mine is an urban legend often associated with cities, especially train stations at night. It is the story, there's many different versions of it from Japan, depending on which region you're in, but the most common, just kind of base element of it, is a story of a girl who somehow ends up on the railroad tracks and is severed in half by a train.
Bruh.
And sometimes it's an accident, sometimes it's intentional on her part, whatever it might be, that's typically what happens. She will often come after people for various reasons. What happens is people will be out at night, typically around the train stations, and they'll hear the sound of sliding across the ground, which is where her name comes from. She's actually known as the Teke Teke, which is basically an onomatopoeia for the sound that her body makes. So it's the idea of her sliding across the ground, and the Japanese onomatopoeia is Teke Teke about that.
Yes.
Sometimes she's referred to as bata bata, shaka shaka, pada pada, kata kata, kodo kodo, etc. Basically, it's a lot of onomatopoeia for the sound a body would make sliding across the pavement as she's coming after you. It's kind of like the sound of her running on her elbows is how people describe it. She's actually sometimes even referred to as the girl who runs on her elbows.
That is very scary.
The girl who runs on elbows?
No.
That's pretty frightening. That's the interesting thing, too, is that you would think, okay, that's not that... I mean, it's scary, right? That'd be horrifying to see. But you're like, all right, I could outrun that. No, apparently, despite her being severed in half, she moves at incredibly fast speeds, to the point where, in some stories, she's even chased victims down in cars. So, it's pretty intense. In some versions of the story, she carries around a sickle, and it's to slice her victims in half, often to steal their legs as her own. And then sometimes the victims will become Teke Teke as well after they die. So often, like, they will become one as well, and then start hunting down additional people. And different locations, like I said, have different versions depending on where you're located. The most common connection between them is the story. It's like the legend of a woman named Kashima Reiko, I believe, from Hokkaido. And her story came before Teke Teke, and has kind of been folded into that story. So this was a story of a similar thing, and then, like, once this urban legend of Teke Teke started developing, they kind of, like, included her story into it. The most common version of her story is happening slightly after World War II, where she's brutally attacked by an American military personnel. After this horrific attack, which I won't go into detail about, but she decides to jump from a bridge onto the railroad tracks, onto the train tracks. She's hit by a train, which severs her in half. But in this story, because of how cold it is when this happens, it constricts her blood vessels, allowing her to not bleed out completely and crawl to the nearby train station. And while she's there, there's an attendant that sees her, and instead of, like, trying to get help or anything, he just, like, covers her with a tarp. So she has, like, a slow, painful death, as opposed to, like, dying instantly from the train or from,
This
like,
is like the
help.
equivalent of when you start hearing your car make a scary noise, and instead of doing anything about it, you just crank up the radio.
Right?
Like, that's what he did to her.
Yeah, and it's, from what I've read at least, and maybe, there's different versions, it's unclear whether he was, like, doing it intentionally or he thought she was, like, dead already and then did it. But either way, that's basically the gist of, like, why she's out to get her revenge,
Right.
is that she was wrongfully treated during her death. And in different versions, sometimes she'll track you down 3 days after hearing her story. So if somebody tells you the story 3 days later, she'll come after you.
Bro, what the fuck?
I know, right? It's not your fault. Why is she suddenly like, you heard it, now you gotta die? It's like, but I don't why?
But now I have to tell the story to somebody else. This is the ring, bro.
Well, and that's the funny thing, like, her story, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but, like, is definitely an influence on the ring. Like, totally,
okay.
100%. Because, like, sometimes she'll ask you a riddle as well via, like, phone call or dream. So sometimes she visits you in your dreams. Sometimes it's literally like the ring, which is the phone call. And one of the websites, I'll put all my sources, of course, in the show notes, but one of the websites, I quoted this exactly, like, what she'll ask you. She'll say, do you need your legs? And you have to reply that I need them right now. Then she'll ask, who told you my story? And you have to reply, Kashima Riko, excuse me. I guess because her name breaks down into these things. Ka as in mask, Shi as in death, Ma as in demon, Re as in ghost, and Ko as in accident. So, in other words, like, kind of the elements of her. And if you answer that correctly without a mistake, she might let you live. It says here, may let you live, which begs the question, is she still just like, I don't care. Yeah.
She's like, you don't need your legs that bad.
She often appears, rather than, like, at train stations, like Teke Teke, she often appears in bathrooms, which apparently is a very common occurrence with Japanese ghost legends, which I didn't know. When I was researching this happens a lot. One of them, I was like, I almost did because it was so bizarre, which was when you're using the restroom, there's this ghost there that will ask you if you want red paper or blue paper. Like, I'm guessing as if in toilet paper, maybe? And either way, you're dead. Like, if it's red paper, it kills you in a bloody death. Huh. If it's blue paper, it'll suffocate you to death. So, apparently Japanese bathrooms are very terrifying.
Seems like it.
But in this version of the tale, when she does appear in bathrooms, she'll again ask people, like, where her legs are. And in this version, you have to say that they're on the Meishin Expressway. which I believe Meishin, let me look it up really quick because it was interesting what it meant. Superstition was a translation as of from Google at least. So basically it's saying on the Superstation Express, like so if you say that, she'll let you live. Now again, this is like hugely influenced on The Ring. Like obviously the phone calls and the idea of her coming after you. And apparently it was also turned into a film. In 2009 there was a film called Teke Teke, and it was followed up that exact same year with a sequel. So within a year they made the second one. And I've been trying to track this movie down. I think the only place you can watch it is like Apple TV, Apple's thing, and you have to rent it still. But the reason I want to watch it is because it's directed by, and again, I'm sorry for my pronunciation, Koji Shirashi, I believe is how you pronounce it. He actually directed, if you haven't seen it, Noroi the Curse is one of the most fantastic found footage films. It's on Shudder exclusively. Like for a long time it wasn't available. So if anyone out there, if you have Shudder and you're looking for like a great found footage film, like watch that. It is really, really good. But that just gives me, what's that? Just get Shudder.
Get Shudder.
But it just gives me hope that the movie's probably pretty good because he's a fantastic director and I love his style. But yeah, that's kind of the story of Teke Teke. Just the idea that she is this severed in half ghost coming after people, stealing legs.
I just like how she's like, do you need your legs? And it's kind of like, bro,
I'm using them. Well, it's also weird because she's like, she feels like Freddy Krueger. You know how like Freddy Krueger in the first couple of films is like going after like the immediate children of the parents of Elm Street that like burned him, right? But then like by like movie 6, he's just kind of killing any teenager he comes across. Like, it's like, he even says in the 6th film, he says something like, every town's got an Elm Street. So I'm like, is that her, like, thing where she's just like, originally she's after the people who wronged her, with the train accident. But then now she's just like, I'm out of people, but I gotta keep killing because I'm a vengeful spirit.
I'm still angry.
Right. It's often like a children's tale, like, which sounds really disturbing, but like, obviously some of the details are left out of like the kids' versions, but it's kind of like, to some degree, it's a version of their Bloody Mary. Remember being a kid where your friends would be like, I dare you to go in the bathroom and say Bloody Mary, and you're like, no,
three times, and then afterwards, you can't. A do-over.
Yeah, right? And it's like, what a weird children's game. Be like, go in the bathroom and maybe she'll come out and eviscerate you if you say it 3 times. And it's like, I'm not chicken, I'm going to do it.
The only thing that scared me about Bloody Mary is I would go into the bathroom to do it, but then like seconds later, my friend's dad is like, goo 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 at the door. Just like, what are you doing in there? Give someone else a chance. That was the only thing really scary about it. I just didn't want like, I don't know, my dad is in there for like an hour, so like if you're in there for more than 5 minutes, you're getting screamed at. So it's just like,
yeah, I feel like that's a dad thing. You go and you spend 40 minutes in the bathroom, and I have no idea. They
need to get some fiber in their diet. Like, what happens?
Oh, good Lord. But anyway, she can be a children's tale. Like kids will tell that tale to scare each other type of thing. Like if you're out at night, you gotta watch out for Teke Teke because she might come and, slice you in half and take your legs, which would also be hilarious because I'm imagining she's a full grown woman and her running around with children's legs would be the funniest thing on the planet. Just like like a Warner Brothers cartoon where they have the spinning legs,
like a reverse Nightcrawler, just like.
That's true. It's a good point. Why doesn't she just go after the Nightcrawlers? They've got tall, long legs.
We need to ship Nightcrawlers from Fresno to Japan. It's a relocation program.
Yeah.
For the ecosystem of spooky bitches.
It's true. The ECB, ESB, the ESB.
Yes.
I can spell.
Words.
Words are hard.
I use them all the time.
But yeah, so that was mine. Like I said, there's a lot of great Japanese ghosts. Like a lot of like I said, a lot of them end up in the bathroom. Not quite sure why. I don't know if it's because you're most vulnerable. It's like
Listen, Japan has some of the best toilet humor you'll
That's
ever
true.
hear. They're
That's true, too.
fantastic with the toilet humor.
You know, why aren't there more? Think about that. Yeah, I don't know if people would just find it too funny, but like being in the bathroom and being attacked by something is absolutely terrifying. Why isn't that used more in movies? The only one that comes to mind is Friday the 13th Part 5.
Oh,
Where the guy's like, "Damn you enchiladas," and he runs to the bathroom, and Jason, because we all know how Friday the 13th Part 5 is, kills him. It like he's he's using the bathroom. So
no, there's a Stephen King one. I think it was Dreamcatcher.
Right. I think they
Yeah.
called them shit weasels. They're the
Yes.
little things that crawl up into people and kill. I mean, that was when Stephen King was. I think that was right after when he was hit by the van, and so he was high on painkillers. He went from cocaine to painkillers, and that apparently really with him. So he had to write like a 1,000-page book about these alien monsters crawling up into people from the toilets.
I think most people who live in places like Florida and Australia have to worry about like toilet snakes.
Yeah, I was gonna say occasionally you see that online,
Yeah.
and you know it's not a common occurrence, but like for a few days afterwards, you're like hesitant to sit down on the toilet.
I grew up in Ohio, and I still checked for a toilet snake. So
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely.
You don't know.
Every once in a while, it's like you hear like, this man, his plumbing wasn't working, so they opened it up and found this 200-foot,
Python.
python, and you're like. Or have you seen that video? This is way off topic, but there was a video that was making the rounds, I think, on TikTok. But it was absolutely terrifying where they had this snake problem in this house. And there was one snake, but they noticed the roof was moving. So they poked it and 20 giant snakes fall out of the roof that had been breeding and living in their attic. Yeah. And I was like, that is absolutely, thank God I don't live anywhere near where that is. And I don't have an attic because that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio might be built on a hellmouth, but you don't have to worry about ceiling snakes, so... or toilet snakes, or...
Ma, those goddamn flying ceiling snakes are back!
It's just some guy with a shotgun in his house. Just shooting up into the ceiling.
Get the deer slugs!
The deers. Oh shit, that was my last buckshot. God.
He's got a magnum, he's just firing into the ceiling.
So you know Cletus too.
oh yeah, who doesn't know Cletus? Everybody knows Cletus.
I always read about him in the Daily Beat.
Well,
yeah.
So what did you bring to the table? I'm curious what you ended up picking.
So, this is kind of funny because I also picked a dismembered woman from Asia, but we're going to Southeast Asia now.
Okay.
So my story is Krasue. So this is a common figure in a lot of South Asian folklore. Her story is most common in Thailand, so obviously, there are a lot of different cultures that this has come from. There's a lot of different information, so I'm going to do my best to cover as best as I can, but I'm going to stick with the Thai origin because that's where the story is most prevalent, where the name comes from. But this woman has appeared in Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, some stories in the Philippines has their equivalent. Krasue is said to be a woman who is under a curse that makes her insatiable. She can eat and eat and eat and just is never full, always continuously hungry. The curse could come from a lot of things. Most commonly, it's from black magic or having partaken in some sort of witchcraft. It could come from having done evil deeds in your life. It could be from eating food or drinking something that's been contaminated by another Krasue. So on and such forth. Sometimes women who act a little bit unusual in rural communities may be accused of becoming a Krasue by nightfall. Krasue is the spirit. The spirit is the head of a woman. Naturally, she is described as being very beautiful and very youthful and very young. But from there, just from the face down, she is a trachea, esophagus, lungs, heart, stomach, intestines. She hovers above the ground, floating, while her entrails just kind of chill and dangle below her. So, yes, we'd have another half of a person story. So sorry.
Even less than half of a person. She's a head with some innards, and that's about it.
She's having... You know. I mean, a lot of people with IBS could relate to this. It's...
Sometimes it just feels like your head is leaving your body in that situation. You
just lose contact with your limbs, and you're like, all I am is just a brain with revolting insides.
Toilet thoughts.
Is this our poop episode? I think this is our poop episode.
Yeah. We had the pee episode with Bear Grylls and the witch bottle, and then this is the poop episode.
This is the poop episode. I'm first full. Well, there's more poop to this story. So Krasue will eat anything, but primarily she's looking for raw flesh and blood. She'll eat carrion and feces. Some of the stories tell about people who leave their clothing outside to hang to dry, and when they wake up in the morning, there's smears of blood and feces on the clothes. So they're like, oh, Krasue was here and she was eating and she wiped her mouth on our clothes and walked away. And I'm like, okay, so not only are you a monster, but you're rude. Love it. Most commonly, though, what she wants is blood. If someone has been injured, they'll be very careful to make sure that they're protected at night, because Krasue might come in and try and feed off of them while they're in their weakened state and try to get more blood. Once Krasue is full, her stomach and intestines will glow, like actually illuminate. And some people believe that this story is part of a folkloric explanation for the luminescent glow that some of the methane in the marshy areas of Southeast Asian will give off. Like, there are some bioluminescent mushrooms in the area. So they're like, oh, these are like Krasue mushrooms, which I think is a really interesting story to me. There's also a theory that if bananas are very small, it's because of Krasue and not because of a mutation with the plant. They're just like, Krasue bananas. I love it. Just everything gets blamed on her.
I was gonna say, like, it seems like you can become one in like a multitude of ways, and any problem is her problem.
It is all because of her. An abnormally tiny banana caused by a mutation is said to have been eaten by a Krasue.
So it's just abnormally small, and that means that she ate it, but like there's still a banana there. It's not like a bitten banana. It's like
just a small banana.
Is she like she obviously is like sucking the blood, so it's like, is she like sucking the banana out of the banana rind? Is that what peel is the word we use? You know?
I just think it's interesting that she was just like, blood, potassium, blood.
Look, that's important. You know, if you've got blood issues, if you're anemic or something like that, you need that potassium.
Girl. Nutrition is important for all. Krasue does have a body in this version of the story, and the Krasue will return to the body before daybreak, and basically the head and the organs and everything will just reattach to the husk, and then she'll walk around daytime like a normal person, though, shrouded and very like sleepy and tired looking from being up all night eating cattle and people.
Mm-hmm. As you are.
Yeah, as you do, as one does.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you destroy the body of the Krasue while it is still headless, you can destroy the spirit. If it cannot return to its body, she'll fly around, try to meld to the wrong body, basically just search for a vessel until daybreak comes, and then she will be destroyed by the light. Villagers will protect themselves from Krasue by growing spiky bamboo or tall spiky fences, because obviously Krasue has a bit of an issue with the the dangling parts.
That's true.
So if she tries to get through it, she gets snagged. Which I appreciate that their way of keeping her out of their property is through inconvenience.
That's a good point. It's like
she's hungry, but she's not willing to inconvenience herself.
yeah, it's like I
She
gotta
has
go
no
fly.
arms. Like, how's she gonna get out?
Yeah, true. I mean, but she is a flying head. You think she could just fly?
Up and
Yeah,
over?
yeah. But like, it's just like, man, they put up a spike wall. Bamboo, really? All right, I guess I'll just go somewhere else.
Fine. Yeah, I thought that too. Like, can't you just go up and over it? But I'm not gonna argue with it.
It's like when you leave something upstairs in like an office and you're like, my pen's upstairs and I gotta write a note, but I don't want to go upstairs, so, you know.
I'll remember it, and then you don't remember
I'll remember it. Yeah, exactly. These things equate to each other.
Of course, yeah. I think this is a very fascinating story. I love it. I think that she's incredibly spooky. It's gotten very popular on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
There is also probably a lot of... In Thailand, this is very common in media. So there's been a lot of movies, a lot of references to Krasue.
Mm-hmm.
There are movies. The most recent one, I think, came out in 2019. It's called Krasue and Human Kiss. But there's some other movies that are called, like, Demonic Woman, stuff like, the translations are kind of rough. But
I was going to say, is that the famous one? There's one that's, like, become really popular from, like, the 70s or 80s about this. And it might be Demonic Woman. But it's...
Demonic Beauty is what it's called. And that one's from 2002.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to see if I can find it. There's a pretty famous one now because it's like super low budget and weird. Mm-hmm. And like it's super innovative, like, and you could tell like they were working with no money, but there's many times where it's very clearly like a fake head just on like a string just going wee through the shot and that kind of like makes it awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, actually, let's see if I can find it. How do you spell it?
Krasue Sao, Ghosts of Guts Eater. Yeah, I think that's the one. It's from 1973.
Yeah, I've never seen the full thing, to be totally honest, but I've seen many clips from it, and it is as bonkers crazy as you want it to be. Like, it is just insane, and it gets crazier and crazier as it goes, and it's just like, yeah. So, maybe something to check out later on. Maybe I'll finally sit down and watch the whole movie.
Yeah, I think it'd be really fun to sit and watch it. I'm really into the title though. Ghosts of Guts Eater. I want there to be a theme. So there's this TikToker. His name's Hummus Vacuum.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I am obsessed with him. He is so funny. He is a punk musician from Ohio, and he makes a lot of like funny songs, comedy songs. But he has a song about Krasue, where basically he's talking about meeting somebody on Tinder and being like, I think for our first date, let's travel to Cambodia and excavate the long lost artifact of Ba Tam Bang, and we can summon the spirit of Krasue, and we can. And so if you get the chance, listen to Krasue by Hummus Vacuum. It is nice.
That sounds great.
Honorable mention that I had though is that in the Philippines there is a kind of a similar story. This one is called Manangal. I definitely butchered that. I have Filipino family, and they're gonna harass my shitty attempt at Tagalog, but Manangal. In the Philippines, this is the creature that is mostly, again, top half of a woman, but she has bat wings, making her more vampire-esque. This one is said to have a proboscis.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Not fond of that word. A proboscis that is used to suck blood from the fetuses inside of pregnant women.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yep.
So,
I was going to say that's actually similar to something that happens in that movie. We were talking about the Guts Eater movie. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, like Krasue and of other varying versions of her. Big fan of fetuses. Really goes after the pregante women. Lots of them. I don't know how popular Krasue is still in Thailand, I feel like there is still a lot of media being made about her, a lot of movies and stuff, but again, it's mostly from this is a folklore story, this is like Bloody Mary, this is our version of it.
Other than Bloody Mary, can you think of any other like American urban legends that like are the equivalent of either of these? Like we have ghosts, obviously, like to when like debate is out if people think they're real or not. But like you could lump that in, or you could lump cryptids in, or things like that. But we don't really have like a specific like folklore creature that comes to mind to me, like other than Bloody Mary, which is the one that like as a kid you're like, Bloody Mary, like we talked about.
Like a ghostly woman that can be summoned or anything. Yeah, and that's what I really like about this story too. And I like that this is such a big part, but like this is like a cultural thing that people are like, yes, I this is a part of my culture, and I would like people to know more about this. And I think it's fun to see a lot of like Asian creators and influencers and stuff on TikTok talking about it. And but really we're really lacking in the blood-sucking demoness.
You don't really have that same like legendary like cultural impact because we're a younger country, and B, we were founded by like Puritans. So everything was like, you're a witch or a demon. Like when Slender Man came out. That was the attempt to sort of build an American folklore creature to some degree, like in a very American
way. It's manufactured. Like this was like
it started off, and we could do a whole episode on Slender Man. That might be kind of fun, but it started off as on like a website, what was it called? Something
creepypasta?
It was like a creepypasta, but it was like something creepy or something awful or some website. They were doing like a contest which was Photoshop the best like creepy thing you can into photos, and like the winner wins. And whoever it was, I wish I remember. I have to go. It's been so long. I'd have to do some research. But he created Slender Man by taking these two old photos of like black and white, and photoshopped him in like to the background. And they were so well done, they exploded across the internet. And like I never thought it was real, but obviously there are people out there who did, and there's some really tragic stories because of that. But it's such a weird thing that started off as a contest and it exploded into some people being like thinking it was real, which is so strange. But that's a topic for another day, I suppose.
Episode for another day. We can go all in on the manufactured American cryptids. From the internet cryptids, if you will.
It just makes me think of, do you remember, do you ever watch the show The Critic? Super short-lived. It was created by a couple of writers from The Simpsons. They used to write pop culture jokes into The Simpsons all the time, and eventually, like, the other writers are like, guys, if you want to write those in, go make your own show. And, like, not in a bad way, but they did. Unfortunately, it only lasted, like, a season or two. He's a movie critic, and I always remember this one line from it, which is, he's trying to sell like this book he wrote, and there's like a pop-up of him, and it just goes, buy my book, but over and over again. And it just, anytime I think of like manufactured stuff like that, it immediately makes me think of buy my book. Just over and over again.
Yeah. Billboard monsters is what we have.
If you're playing Twice the Terror Bingo, get ready, because I'm about to say I think we could do this episode again at some point. We
really should. It should be like a drinking game. Every time you say 100%. Or absolutely.
Get your bingo cards ready, everybody.
Yeah.
So
make a game out of it. I don't know. I feel like the one thing that you could always, the free space could definitely be the end of the episode when you say, all right, Kat, why don't you wrap us up? And I'll go, what do I do?
Well, on that note, Kat, would you like to close us out for this episode?
Oh, God. Okay. On behalf of Teke Teke and Krasue, make sure when you go home tonight, plant a shit ton of bamboo in your front lawn, and make sure that if anyone calls you and asks you if you're using your legs, you say yes.
They're my legs, damn it.
They're my legs and I need them now.
Where's J.G. Wentworth?
J.G. Wentworth treatment.
877 legs now. Are you being haunted by the Teke Teke? Call J.G. Wentworth.
877 legs now.
They're my legs and I need them now. right, everyone, we'll stop this madness.
Yeah.
Until next time, everybody.
Next time.